Okay, hello, welcome back to this video for the UMT FX Live. And if you remember from the last couple videos we've been looking at 5-minute charts across multiple markets, and I had promised you that we would take a look at more of an active, I guess almost like you can call more of a scalping type time frame. And we would do that with 144 tick, as you can see here. This is on the pound US dollar, so GBPUSD. 144 tick is a good time frame. It's one that we tend to look at for this more active trading. So let's kind of walk through the trades. As you remember, we talked a little bit about the system itself, how we've got our trend lines here, which are these solid blue lines. Sometimes when they're down, they're red. And then you got this big directional indicator, which is green when it's up, it's red when it's down. And of course your modified MACD down here. And we're basically looking at a voting system, looking for 4 out of 6 or greater of our 6 indicators to point in one direction after a hook of the trend lines. And the great news is you can see here the indicator that's we call the advanced tactics actually will do all the counting for you. And though you know the exact rules, it's kind of nice that it'll spot the exact setups for you as they occur, just in case you miss anything or you're not sure. It's 100% confirmed this way. So let's just start Monday and Tuesday, since we're recording this on Tuesday, January 27th. And I'll look at both the European and the US session. And we have a couple rules. When we get a setup like this one here, we need to make sure that the reward is greater than the risk. And you can see on this one, the reward was 35 pips. The risk is 37. So this is a filter for us. We do not take setups where the reward is lower than the risk. So I basically just filter out that trade. If you recall as well, we start the European session from 1 a.m. Eastern to 5 a.m. Eastern. That's kind of the window of time. And then the U.S. market hours is 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. You don't have to, of course, work that entire time, but that's the range of hours and the only range of hours that we would take trades on this market. Now you can see a bit later here, this would be about 2:58 a.m. We get a pretty nice setup that actually would have hit full target. Now the reason I'm not going to take this trade is because my directional indicator was red, and we have a filter on that. We have a rule that says if it's down, we don't take the entry unless the profit target, which is right here, is still below the directional. But because I had to fight through that to get to target, it's a trade that I would filter out. So even though it worked, it's a trade that I'm not going to typically take. And we, of course, define that for you. This is a couple situations where we don't do it. However, we have a re-entry trade right here, which turns out to be nice. After you see a trade go to full target and it pulls back and we have something we call separation of our trend lines, we get a setup right here. And you can see on the screen, it gives you the exact entry, 1.3708, and the target of 1.3795. We're going to be getting shooting for 86 pips on a risk of 60, at least to start the trade. We'll cut that risk down as well. And there's some things that we'll talk a little bit about, how we actually cut this risk down. Now in this case, I think you can see here, it gets up above 3,800. So clearly we get our target on the reentry trade. And in that case, that's going to be, 86 pips. So I'll record that right here. These were the trades on our 5-minute the last couple days. But we'll go ahead and put this down here under the scalp, under the European session. All right, and that's basically it on Monday. In the European session, we had a couple trades we had to filter out, and we had one we just couldn't take, but we did get the re-entry trade. So really nice result without even a lot of activity. Now starting at 7 a.m., I mean, can you see, like, even if you did not know any of the rules, can you see how you can easily identify trades? This is just not a complicated strategy, right? I mean, here's a setup. The little plus sign is the trigger. In this case, reward is the same as the risk. That's okay. But it didn't trigger, right? I mean, the price never went down to that entry price, so no trade at that point. A little bit later, we do get a setup right here. Now, let's see what happens on this one. It would be a entry. Now, in this case, it's a rule that you would learn. We would be going long at the setup of 1.3896. Now, we have a rule right in front of a big round number like 3900 that we place our buy stop up above the round number when we're up into the 90s. So we would actually buy stop that at 1.3902. Again, that's just respecting key levels in the market. So we'd go ahead and we would get that trade. It would happen a bit later, and we would end up with, rather than the 44 pips, we'd end up with 37 pips because we adjusted our entry up 7 pips to get around the key level of 1.3900. A lot of you have traded Forex, you understand what those key numbers do. A lot of times the market cannot get through those numbers, or they resist it for a while. So we just decide not to battle with the number, and we'll take, in this case, our 37 pips in the US session. More than happy to take it, get a good little profit. And again, right, very straightforward. You see your exact stop and your exact targets. Let's see if there's anything else. Well, here's another one, right? So entry price 1.3943, target of 1.3990. And this one looks like it's going to hit target on the screen, and it actually does. Now, this trade comes a little late for me. That's a bit after the cutoff, so even though it hits full target, I'm not going to record it as a winner, though, it may have been one you would have potentially considered, just, given that there was a really nice trend going at the time. But let's just call it a no trade. Let's just try to be as picky as possible on the trades. Let's go ahead and scoot forward to today, Tuesday, starting after 1 a.m. You've got a European session trade here, really straightforward, right? Entry, target, good risk-reward ratio, 42 pips, done. Nice trade there. All right, let's go ahead and see what else we might have in the U.S. session. Let's kind of scroll forward a little bit. What I should do is point out there was even another really low-risk re-entry right here. I had nice separation here when the dash lines were separated from the solid. The neat thing about these trades on these re-entries, even though the odds go down a little bit on these trades, you can actually tuck your stop right below that swing low rather than the full stop. And in this case, I've got a target of 1.4222, which is a 64 pip target. It actually does hit, and my risk really was just back to the low, a little bit below the low here. So 1.41, let's just call it 30 just for easy, calculation. It's about a 28, maybe 30 pip risk for a 64 pip reward. So really nice on the re-entry there. Those are worth taking when you've got a very low risk for a larger reward. That's 2 to 1 on that trade. So that one, it's hard to resist when you get something like that. We don't take all of the re-entry trades, but we do take some. Now here's a trade that set up, but it came before my 7 o'clock start time and hit full target. These also are trades that you will learn this type of re-entry after a successful hit here that comes back into the trend lines. But I'm not going to record it, though you had a nice short re-entry here. I'll just kind of leave it alone. Again, we're just trying to pick off the most obvious setups. Okay, now we do get one here, right? I think you'd all agree that's a setup. That's a setup here. But let's make sure that our risk-reward is right. 27 on the reward, 21 on the risk. Looks good to me. But it's going to stop out. But there's a couple things that happen here. The target is 1.4016. We actually get down to 1.4025, which is halfway between what we call this 1x level, and you can't see it on the screen, 4.0126, the 2x level. That enables us to drop our stop. Now, we're still going to lose some money on this trade. We're going to stop out at 1.4052, but it's not as, not too bad. It's about a 10 pip loss rather than 21. So we were able to cut our risk down. But, we got to go ahead and record that as a loss, 10 pips. Put that down there. Let's kind of scooch forward a little bit, see if we get any other setup. Now, we do get a setup candle here. The problem is it's a 16 pip reward for a 25 pip risk. But I can go ahead and scroll forward on my setup candles and see if I get another one that's a valid setup. And we do right here. We get a setup candle. It's still within my trade time. And now I've got a 28 pip reward for a 24 pip risk. And that is going to hit my full target. I don't think there's any question. It's going to actually go quite a bit further than 1.4140, but I can go ahead and jump out and take my profit and grab my 28 pips. And I think you can see here, let's add this up real quick in the 2 sessions, just on one market. Of course, you can trade more than one market at a time. This way you can see it's not that many trades. It's very straightforward. I pick up 192 pips, and I pick up 55. So, overall I get 247 pips to be exact. And I get 5 wins and a loss. And obviously my average gain's quite a bit larger than my average loss. We don't expect to, go 5 out of 6. I mean, we'd be happy with 4 out of 6. Sometimes we'd be happy with 3 out of 6 because we're getting more on the profit side than we risk. And we're going to hit days that are choppy, and they're not going to be as smooth as, as the last couple days. But we don't typically have a lot of trades on any given session anyway. So even if we hit a session like that, it might be 1 or 2 losses, and the very next day might be quite smooth. So hopefully that makes good sense to you. You can see it's very clear cut on the charts. When you have a setup, right? Stop, entry, target. We have a couple filters to make sure we only take the highest odds trades. That's one of the key things you'll learn in the UMT FX Live. I mean, we'll tell you exactly which trade setups are the best, how to filter them out, how to know which ones to take and which ones not to take. And it really is not a complex strategy, so you're going to be able to quickly get to the point where you can be executing trades in real time. So I'm going to wrap this one up there. Join us again. Come back tomorrow. We'll go and take a look at the last couple days on the 5-minute bars, and we'll catch up and see how we've been doing after our first couple days there.